Imagine discovering that one of the most revered relics in biblical history, the Ark of the Covenant, did not disappear into the unknown as many have long assumed, but instead found its way to Ethiopia. What if the story of its journey was preserved in a text that the Western Church suppressed for centuries? The Kebra Nagast, an ancient Ethiopian manuscript, reveals a narrative far richer than the Bible's account of the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon. The Kebra Nagast is an ancient Ethiopian manuscript that extends far beyond the biblical account of the Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon. This text not only explores the connection between these two iconic figures, but also unveils how their meeting led to the Ark of the Covenant being transported from Jerusalem to Ethiopia, where, according to the Kebra Nagast, it resides to this day. In today's exploration, we'll delve deep into the Kebra Nagast, uncovering its hidden revelations about the Ark, Solomon, and the Queen of Sheba. We'll examine how this remarkable story has shaped Ethiopia's spiritual identity for generations. This narrative has been obscured for centuries, but today we're bringing it to light. If you're curious about other banned or forgotten texts from the Ethiopian Bible, we've linked previous videos in the description below. And if there's a particular text you'd like us to explore further, let us know in the comments. We'd love to dive deeper into these incredible hidden histories. But for now, let's uncover the astonishing tale of the Kebra Nagast and the Ark of the Covenant. The story of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba is one many of us know from the Bible, specifically 1 Kings 10:1 through 13 and 2 Chronicles 9:1 to 12. A powerful queen, captivated by Solomon's wisdom and fame, travels to Jerusalem to test his knowledge. In the biblical account, she is awed by his profound understanding and praises the God of Israel for granting such wisdom to a king. She then returns to her land, and the story ends there. But the Kebra Nagast tells a far richer and more profound version. According to this ancient Ethiopian text, the Queen of Sheba's visit was no ordinary diplomatic mission. It was part of a divine plan that would alter Ethiopia's destiny forever. While the Bible concludes her story when she departs for her homeland, the Kebra Nagast marks this as just the beginning. In Ethiopian tradition, the Queen of Sheba is named Makeda. The Kebra Nagast recounts that she wasn't merely testing Solomon's wisdom. She was destined to form a bond with him, one orchestrated by divine will. After marveling at his knowledge and his devotion to God, Makeda accepts Solomon's invitation to remain in his palace. Their relationship deepens, and they conceive a child, Menelik, who would become Ethiopia's first emperor. This pivotal detail is absent from the Bible, where there's no mention of Solomon fathering a child with the Queen of Sheba. Yet the Kebra Nagast presents their union as part of a grander divine purpose. Menelik's birth, according to this text, wasn't just a royal event. It symbolized the beginning of Ethiopia's spiritual inheritance, one deeply tied to God's covenant. After Menelik's birth, Makeda returns to Ethiopia. Years later, when Menelik comes of age, he feels a strong desire to meet his father. His journey to Jerusalem, as described in the Kebra Nagast, is portrayed as divinely ordained. Solomon immediately recognizes him as his son and true heir. This recognition is a cornerstone of Ethiopia's claim to a Solomonic dynasty, a lineage that traces its origins back to Menelik and spans generations of Ethiopian rulers, including Emperor Haile Selassie. This sacred lineage doesn't just establish Ethiopia's monarchs as rulers, but as descendants of King David through Solomon, affirming their divine right to rule. The Bible remains silent on such claims, adding an air of intrigue to the Kebra Nagast. How did this narrative emerge, and what does it signify for Ethiopia's role in biblical history? In the Bible, the Queen of Sheba's story is brief. A queen tests Solomon's wisdom, admires his grandeur, and returns home. There's no mention of love, children, or a spiritual legacy. However, the Kebra Nagast transforms this encounter into a defining moment in history. The text suggests that Ethiopia was chosen by God to inherit divine wisdom and favor, forming a spiritual covenant with Israel. Menelik's birth is described not as mere coincidence, but as part of God's greater design, a means to spread his wisdom and blessings to a new nation. Ethiopia, according to the Kebra Nagast, became a custodian of divine truth, entrusted with carrying forward God's will in a uniquely Ethiopian context. This reimagining of the Queen of Sheba's tale reshapes not just Ethiopia's history, but its spiritual identity, offering a profound perspective on its place in the biblical world. As we explore this story further, we'll see how the Ark of the Covenant and the Kebra Nagast continue to inspire faith, pride, and mystery in Ethiopia and beyond. This is where the story takes an even more extraordinary turn. According to the Kebra Nagast, when Menelik visits Jerusalem as an adult, his journey is not merely about meeting his father. The text claims that Solomon, recognizing Menelik as his true heir, offers him the chance to remain in Jerusalem and inherit the throne. However, Menelik, guided by divine wisdom, declines this offer, believing that his destiny lies in Ethiopia. But Menelik does not return to Ethiopia empty-handed. In a secretive and divinely ordained mission, Menelik and his followers take with them the Ark of the Covenant, the sacred chest housing the Ten Commandments and symbolizing God's presence on earth. This bold claim, central to the Kebra Nagast, redefines the fate of one of the most sacred relics in biblical history. In the Bible, the Ark remains in Jerusalem during Solomon's reign, enshrined within the Holy of Holies in the temple. Its fate becomes a mystery after the Babylonian exile, as no canonical text provides a clear account of what happened to it. The Kebra Nagast, however, offers an answer to this enigma. The Ark was divinely relocated to Ethiopia, where it has remained under heavenly protection ever since. What are we to make of the Kebra Nagast's claim that Menelik brought the Ark to Ethiopia? While the Bible is silent on the Ark's fate after the exile, this Ethiopian text presents a narrative both astonishing and deeply intertwined with the nation's spiritual identity. According to the Kebra Nagast, the Ark was not lost or destroyed. Instead, it was carried out of Jerusalem by Menelik I, the son of Solomon, and the Queen of Sheba, in a mission guided by God himself. But how did this extraordinary event unfold? Why would God's most sacred relic, the very symbol of his covenant with Israel, be moved to Ethiopia? And what does this mean for Ethiopia's role in biblical history? The story picks up after the Queen of Sheba, known in Ethiopian tradition as Makeda, returns to her homeland, following her union with Solomon and the birth of their son, Menelik. As Menelik grows, he feels an undeniable divine call to journey to Jerusalem and meet his father. This trip, as described in the Kebra Nagast, is not simply a familial reunion. It is the beginning of a sacred mission, ordained by God. When Menelik arrives in Jerusalem, Solomon greets him with joy and recognizes him as his legitimate heir. The Kebra Nagast recounts that Solomon offers Menelik a place at his side, even suggesting that Menelik stay in Israel and inherit the throne. But Menelik, guided by divine insight, declines, choosing instead to fulfill his God-given purpose in Ethiopia. This decision is framed not as an act of defiance, but as one inspired by God's will, signaling that the Ark's journey was meant to transcend Jerusalem. The pivotal moment in this narrative is the secret removal of the Ark of the Covenant from Jerusalem. The Kebra Nagast reveals that, as Menelik prepared to return to Ethiopia, a group of priests and followers, guided by divine revelation, took the Ark from the temple. This act, though carried out without Solomon's knowledge, is portrayed as an event sanctioned by God. It was not theft, but the fulfillment of a divine plan. In this account, the Ark's relocation is depicted as a sacred mission. The Ark, which contained the Ten Commandments and symbolized God's covenant with his people, was entrusted to Menelik and his descendants to protect and preserve. The text suggests that this transfer was part of a larger divine vision to establish Ethiopia as a new spiritual center, far from the turmoil and invasions that would later devastate Jerusalem. As Menelik and his followers journeyed back to Ethiopia, the Kebra Nagast describes a series of miraculous events that affirmed God's approval of their mission. Divine signs and wonders accompanied them, and the priests and Levites who carried the Ark were filled with a profound sense of joy and purpose. They recognized the magnitude of their task. They were not merely transporting an artifact. They were carrying the very presence of God to its new home. The journey itself holds deep symbolic meaning. Just as the Israelites carried the Ark through the wilderness during the time of Moses and Joshua, so too did Menelik, and his followers bear this sacred object through the wilderness to Ethiopia. The Kebra Nagast portrays this mission as a continuation of Israel's spiritual legacy, with Ethiopia taking on the responsibility of safeguarding the Ark and the divine truths it embodied. Once the Ark reached Ethiopia, its significance became central to the nation's identity. The Kebra Nagast not only asserts that the Ark was brought to Ethiopia, but also establishes the country as its rightful guardian. This role carries profound theological implications. In the Bible, the Ark symbolizes God's covenant with Israel and resides in the Holy of Holies within Solomon's temple, a sacred connection between God and his chosen people. The Kebra Nagast, however, extends this covenant, presenting Ethiopia as the inheritor of this divine responsibility. Ethiopia is not depicted as a rival to Israel, but as a continuation of God's purpose, entrusted with preserving his presence on earth. With the Ark now said to be in Aksum, Ethiopia, the nation is transformed into a new spiritual center. According to the Kebra Nagast, this was preordained by God, who chose Ethiopia to protect the Ark and the wisdom of Solomon for generations to come. This narrative marks a dramatic shift from the biblical account, where the Ark's fate is tied to Jerusalem. In the Ethiopian tradition, however, the Ark's relocation signals a new chapter in the unfolding of God's plan, a chapter in which Ethiopia plays a central, divinely appointed role. Through this story, the Kebra Nagast not only offers an explanation for the Ark's mysterious disappearance, but also elevates Ethiopia as a nation uniquely favored by God. The Ark's presence in Ethiopia continues to inspire faith, pride, and a sense of divine purpose, cementing the nation's place in the broader tapestry of biblical history. The Ark's presence in Ethiopia is seen as a profound blessing, a symbol of God's favor and protection over the Ethiopian people. The Kebra Nagast introduces the idea that by becoming the guardian of the ark, Ethiopia inherited a divine legacy that was once solely Israel's. This narrative suggests that Ethiopia occupies a unique and powerful place in God's plan, elevating its spiritual significance to unparalleled heights. The establishment of the Solomonic dynasty through Menelik is depicted in the Kebra Nagast as the continuation of a divine lineage, one that carries the blessings of Solomon and the wisdom of God. This bold claim challenges traditional biblical theology, where the covenant is centered on Israel and Jerusalem. However, for Ethiopians, the Kebra Nagast represents a sacred truth. Their nation was chosen by God to play a central role in the spiritual destiny of the world. For centuries, this belief has shaped Ethiopia's religious identity. The assertion that the Ark resides in Ethiopia has made the nation a beacon of spiritual significance in Eastern Christianity. Many Ethiopians view themselves as spiritual heirs to Israel, tasked with the sacred responsibility of safeguarding God's presence on earth. If you're captivated by these hidden stories, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into banned books and spiritual narratives. We've already explored texts like the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and many others. Links are in the description below. But now, let's return to the Kebra Nagast and the Ark of the Covenant, whose presence in Ethiopia set the stage for a new spiritual era, one that would shape not only the destiny of Ethiopia, but also its royal lineage. The relocation of the Ark to Ethiopia wasn't just about preserving a sacred object. It was the foundation for the rise of the Solomonic dynasty. This royal line, tracing its ancestry back to King Solomon and Menelik I, would rule Ethiopia for over 1,000 years, with its emperors claiming divine legitimacy through their connection to Solomon. This lineage conferred not only political authority, but also spiritual significance, positioning Ethiopia's rulers as the chosen protectors of the Ark. What does this mean for Ethiopia's place in the biblical narrative? And how did the Ark's presence influence the nation's religious identity for centuries? According to the Kebra Nagast, Menelik's birth to Solomon and the Queen of Sheba was no ordinary event. His lineage was not just a matter of blood, but a manifestation of divine will. His birth established a dynasty that carried not only Solomon's wisdom, but also the blessing of God. The Solomonic dynasty, rooted in Menelik I, became the ruling house of Ethiopia for centuries, enduring until the fall of the monarchy in the 20th century. For Ethiopians, this dynasty was far more than a political institution. It was viewed as God-ordained, a continuation of the Davidic line of kings from the Bible. In the biblical narrative, the Davidic kings of Israel and Judah ruled with a divine mandate. God promised King David that his descendants would sit on the throne forever, 2 Samuel 7:16, a covenant central to Israel's understanding of its relationship with God. The Kebra Nagast builds upon this idea, suggesting that the Davidic covenant extended beyond Israel to Ethiopia through the Solomonic line. By tracing Ethiopia's emperors back to Solomon and David, the Kebra Nagast establishes Ethiopia as a spiritual successor to Israel. Its kings are portrayed as God's chosen rulers on earth, entrusted with preserving divine wisdom and laws. This wasn't merely a symbolic claim. The Solomonic dynasty saw itself as having a sacred duty, akin to the kings of Judah, who were tasked with defending the temple and safeguarding the Ark in Jerusalem. The Ark's presence in Ethiopia elevated the role of its monarchs beyond political rulers. They became spiritual guardians. Entrusted with protecting the holiest relic in biblical history, Ethiopia's kings were seen as custodians of God's covenant, deeply intertwined with His will. This role was central to the identity of the Ethiopian monarchy. The Ark, once the focal point of Israel's spiritual life, now became the heart of Ethiopia's divine mission. By claiming the Ark, Ethiopia claimed a direct link to God's presence, positioning itself as the guardian of His covenant on earth. This spiritual authority shaped Ethiopia's history for centuries, with each emperor viewing himself as the protector of the Ark and the defender of the faith. The Kebra Nagast asserts that this mission was part of God's larger plan, not just for Ethiopia, but for the world. The Ark's influence extended beyond the monarchy and deeply shaped the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Church, whose origins date back to the early days of Christianity, regards the Ark as a sacred relic and a cornerstone of its spiritual heritage. According to the Kebra Nagast, the Ark remains in Ethiopia, enshrined in the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum. For centuries, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church has claimed to be the custodian of the Ark, a belief central to the faith of millions of Ethiopians. The Ark is more than a relic. It is a symbol of God's covenant, a testament to Ethiopia's unique place in biblical history, and a source of spiritual identity for a nation that continues to see itself as a chosen guardian of divine truth. The Ark of the Covenant is considered so sacred in Ethiopia that only one guardian monk is allowed to see it. Its presence is believed to bring divine protection to the entire nation. This unique relationship between the Solomonic dynasty, the Ark, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church created a powerful spiritual alliance. The kings ruled with what was believed to be the direct blessing of God, while the Church ensured that the people's faith remained centered on their divine role as the protectors of God's covenant. The Kebra Nagast is not merely a retrospective account. It also casts its gaze toward the future. The text suggests that Ethiopia's role as the guardian of the Ark is part of a larger divine prophecy. According to its teachings, Ethiopia is destined to play a pivotal role in the end times, when the Ark of the Covenant will be revealed to the world. This belief has profoundly shaped Ethiopia's religious identity for centuries. The Kebra Nagast asserts that Ethiopia's destiny is intertwined with the Ark, and that the Solomonic dynasty was established to protect it until the appointed time. For many Ethiopians, this is more than just an ancient narrative. It is a living prophecy, one that continues to shape the nation's understanding of its spiritual mission. The Solomonic dynasty ruled Ethiopia for centuries, with each emperor tracing their lineage back to King Solomon and Menelik I. However, in 1974, the monarchy fell, and Ethiopia transitioned into a republic. The last emperor, Haile Selassie I, was overthrown, bringing an end to what was considered the longest reigning monarchy in history. For many, the fall of the Solomonic dynasty raised profound questions about Ethiopia's divine destiny. If the monarchs were divinely chosen to protect the Ark, what did this political shift mean for Ethiopia's spiritual role? Some view the end of the monarchy as a transition into a new phase of Ethiopia's spiritual mission, while others see it as a temporary setback, believing Ethiopia is still destined to fulfill its role in the unfolding of divine prophecy. Despite the monarchy's fall, the belief in the Ark's presence in Ethiopia remains steadfast. The Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum continues to guard the Ark, and the Ethiopian Orthodox Church still sees itself as the spiritual custodian of God's covenant. What do you think about Ethiopia's claim to the Ark of the Covenant? Could the Solomonic dynasty truly have been part of God's plan for the Ark's safekeeping? And what does the future hold for the Ark of the Covenant? Could Ethiopia's role as the guardian of the Ark be part of a larger prophecy waiting to unfold? The Kebra Nagast leaves us with more than just a historical account. It offers a vision of the future, suggesting that Ethiopia will play a central role in the end times when the Ark's presence might once again be revealed to the world. For centuries, the mystery of the Ark has captivated the imagination of believers across the globe. The Kebra Nagast gives us a glimpse into a story that the Western Church rarely tells, a story of faith, prophecy, and divine destiny. Could it be that Ethiopia holds the key to one of the greatest mysteries in all of biblical history? What might it mean for the world if the Ark of the Covenant were ever revealed? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe the Ark could truly be in Ethiopia? Does the Kebra Nagast change the way you think about biblical prophecy and Ethiopia's role in it? Let's continue the conversation in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed uncovering this hidden story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos on the banned books of the Ethiopian Bible. We've already explored the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and many more. You can find the links in the description below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.